this is present, that there is something, the algo-based decision making, the AI-based decision making, AI-enabled processes in the HR tech, all this is something which is coming a big way. But at the same time, there is a scant literature. I would say the minority view is also there related to, the ethical considerations, ethical aspects related to the usage of algo-based decision making in the HR, and which has, of course, the repercussions for the entire organization. So one side of a spectrum, which is the dominant view, speaks about all the rosy picture related to the HR 2.0, related to the algo-based decisions, related to the AI tools, related to everything which HR 2.0 stands for. There is a minority view which also speaks about that what can be the dangers present related to, or what are the factors which we should keep in our consideration before implementing such a practice in our organization at the industry level or at the organizational level. So, to start with, I would request my esteemed panelists to speak about the journey that their organization have had related to the implementation, the thought, inception, everything related to the HR 2.0, and how do they see it relevant for the organization as well as the industry in which they are operating upon, and at the same time, that is it something which is agnostic to the industries, that's something which is like quite scalable across the industries, something that the experience that they have from their organization. So I would, in fact, I'm not inviting any one single individual. I would rather request any one of you can start and speak about, and others can keep adding on to this body of knowledge. Sure. Okay.
Can you hear me? Yes, great. So thank you, Nishit. And before I share what the Heart is doing at HR 2.0, before in the morning I was asking Anubhav, what is 2.0 and 4.0, and so before that, just to understand, have you heard of Dehat? Has the audience heard of Dehat? So do you know what industry or what sector we are present in? Agri-tech. So, and do you know the problem that we're trying to solve? Anybody? Seeds? Okay, that's one problem we're trying to solve. What else?
Farm equipment, seeds and fertilizers.
Farm equipment, seeds and fertilizers. Okay, what else? Okay, so why I want to bring in the industry and the sector, because that will set the perspective of why we are doing certain things in HR at the heart and how they link to the business. So, as some of you rightly said, agriculture is an amalgamation of a lot of different sectors and industries. So, for a farmer to grow their crop, they need seeds, they need fertilizers, they need farm equipment, they need credit, they need crop nutrition, they need insecticides. There's a lot of inputs, and we call it the pre-harvest side, that go into the process of growing a crop. So traditionally, if you think about all these inputs, right, there are companies who excel in each of these areas, right? There are big names, international names who are known for their seeds. There are big names who are known for farm equipment. There are companies who are known for providing credit and insurance to the farm sector, right? And then, on the other side, you have the post-harvest or the output side, where, once the crop is ready, the farmer needs to take their crop to the market. And then again, you have like really big names, either buying that crop for their consumption or their FMCG brands, or exporting that crop, or, in case of fruits and vegetables, consuming it on a daily basis. But all of these players coming together, and I want you to know, tell me if you have the best of all of the players on the input side, and if you have the best of market, can any of them predict today what will be the income of the farmer? Yes, no, no. So there is a unanimous no, right? So and these are companies which have invested a lot in the technology, a lot in R&D. I'm sure their HR systems have a lot 2.0, 4.0, and so when they had started, this is the problem statement they started to solve for. And we understood that there is just so much complexity and, as Professor Rai said in the morning, right, and ambiguity in agriculture, irrespective of how deep somebody has knowledge of one particular area in agriculture. There's nobody who can guarantee a farm income or a farm produce, and therefore we are building the full stack for a farmer, where we are trying to this is a journey, and we are taking baby steps towards it. We are trying to build an ecosystem where it's easier for farmers to access everything on the input side, and the everything on the market side, and augment it with the newer tools. So every farm that we work with is geotagged. Every person that we work with, we try and ensure that there's soil testing involved. There's a lot of scientific research involved on what should they grow, and what quality of seed, fertilizers, or equipment they should use. And at every step, the technology is playing an important role for us in the business, in ensuring an income for the farmers. So today, when we provide crop insurance to the farmers, crop insurance is not only linked to whether they produce a certain quantity or not, it also is linked to whether the germination happened at the right time. And we are able to track it through satellite, through our remote sensing technology, that because the germination did not happen, you're eligible for an insurance, and it comes to your account with no questions asked, right? So when we're building a full stack like this and hiring people who would be either experts in either of the areas and have never done something like this before, I think it is very important for HR to, number one, bring in technology and systems, not because they're world, best in class, or because they're in Gartner's top quadrant, or because XYZ says that you should have them, but technology and systems which support our workforce in ensuring that they can do their work really easily, right? So we have people who are field sales team members who are doing farmer meetings every day, who are trying to understand what the farmer is going through. And then we have people who are data scientists and AI experts also in the team, who are predicting weather, who are predicting produce, who are predicting a lot of things months in advance, right? To ensure that the HR processes talk to each of these team members. I think technology has played a very important role for us, and there are processes, important places in the process where we are very high touch. So irrespective of whether we have technology or not, there will be somebody in HR who will be coming to you and speaking to you in person. And then there are processes where we need to be very agile, and therefore we use a lot of technology there. So that's something that I wanted to start with.
Hi, good afternoon. Okay, to just give what Rishu's told about DHAT, a very different kind of sector. I represent a very different kind of industry. It is a legal industry. So I worked for more than a decade with majority of the big four firms like PwC, Deloitte, Ernst & Young, and then joined a law firm, which is a full service law firm, one of the largest law firms in the country, around 9 years back, which is run by Lakshmi Gawan and Sridharan. When I was also joining, obviously people thought that, okay, has the law firms evolved? But over a decade, or in last say 12, 15 years, the legal space has evolved in such a way, and automation, and probably if you see, lawyers are generally the one who are adaptable to the technology in the last leg of it's the IT and everyone who will come first and then lawyer, because for them to make something very make themselves adaptable to something is a very difficult volume, because when you're dealing with lawyers, it's a very different scenario altogether. Now, the thing why the need of technology in legal came is initially lawyers always had a privilege that clients will come to you because you don't have to go anywhere. Somebody's in a 500 crore stake matter, obviously will come running to you, don't have to go to him for seeking for work. But with the competition things, with the competitive other firms coming in and with the competition increasing, they have started seeing that there are many alternatives. You have to be on the top of the game to give the best advice, because ultimately your winning the case is what matters to the client, and then is so much money is at stake. The second thing is that clients are not willing to increase your pay beyond the point because they have many alternatives to go to. You have to keep paying your lawyers good, because lawyers as a professional generally a slightly high paid kind of thing. So you have to keep paying them. Now, where does the organization then go in terms of managing the profitability? Means clients are not paying, you have to keep your infrastructure cost is increasing, your technology cost is increasing, your people cost is increasing. Then the thing is why the use of technology came, because the main part which is in a law firm is the billable hours. So basically whatever you are billing to the client, those are the hours which you are actually, and whatever research or whatever judgments, whatever study you do, and law is a profession where you have to keep studying throughout your life, because you should be knowing what the judgment came last week or last day or last evening to have a effective argument in the court, because that may change the entire course of action. So for them now to, if they have to spend their billable hours in researching, going through multiple judgments, reviewing multiple contracts, obviously it is money which is costing you, because in the billable hours you have to also learn, you have to make people understand that what is you have to do research. That's how the technology came, because with the advent of technology, and you might not be knowing, Ross is the first artificial intelligence lawyer in the which was in the globally which was formed. Now, the with the artificial intelligence or with the automation, how law landscape is changing. A couple of very practical examples. So, for example, uh, initially, if you have to argue a case, you have to go through multiple judgments to figure out which is the relevant judgment, which is the relevant portion you have to take. Now, if all this is fed into the system and you just have to type, just to put a type keyword that what exactly you're looking for, it will pull the most relevant judgments to you, along with the particular phrases which will make your argument much stronger. So you save almost many hours of work in just getting to that, because that itself takes a long time. Client will not pay you for doing your research. That's your efficiency. But if technology is enabling that efficiency, you are having that time saved to do that. The second thing is, for example, the contract draft or reviewing. So there are lengthy contract drafts reviewing which you have to keep on doing for multiple thousands of contracts. If you have set the algorithm in such a way that these are the clauses which has to be reviewed and has to be corrected, it will automatically tell you that where the clauses are wrong, what should be the right clause. The second thing is that it can change the contract into multiple languages. We have Chinese clients, Japanese clients. Now, initially, it's all used to happen uh, manually. Now, everything is that you change which language you need, and those contracts will get converted to that language. For example, with the database of so many law cases happening, if a client says that, okay, what are my chances of winning? Earlier, we will see the case and tell. Now, with the predictive analysis, we are able to shift through all our past cases in the similar kind of place. In light of the current judgment which has come, and we can tell, okay, this is your percent. These are the chances of you winning. So either you should fight the case or you settle if there are not much chances of winning. So that is the kind of development which has happened in legal industry in terms of all this is giving you a better service to clients, because now the research time which you are doing in terms of which you are saving by using the technology, you are using that in terms of giving much more fruitful and much more predictive kind of decisions to the client. ultimately AI is just an enabler. So you have to understand that you cannot blindly go by what they are saying. And obviously the systems are evolving. But at least if from shifting from 5,000 judgments, you have to only go through 5 judgments, you still have saved a lot of time in terms of understanding what is more relevant and then telling you how this will impact. So ultimately the lawyer has to tell that, okay, how this will impact, but then more of his energy and more of his time goes in telling the solution rather than finding the solution. It's the genesis of AI is that I don't need to know everything, but I should know where to find it. And that's exactly how the industry is going. And I think there where the HR role is comes very important, because to make them shift through this technology change when they are very averse to change is something where the main part of HR comes, that okay, it is basically not to take away your role or something, it is just to supplement and it is to help you in doing bigger things. And if we are able to make that evident to the people that these are the things which are for the betterment of the legal services, betterment of the client, and the betterment of yourself, that's entire conversation is which is probably the thing where HR plays a significant role. So basically, when this technology or when this change comes, two things which are very important. One is that to harness the power of technology and making your people believe that okay, by this you will be able to harness the power of technology and this is for their betterment. And second is ensuring them that they are skilled enough or they are upskilled in on those technology lines so that they are able to learn through this technology and how they will be able to do better. So if these two things are done, that is how the technology imperative it is. When we say that okay, it has to be technology imperative because there is no other substitute to that. So I think that's how the legal industry has evolved over a period of time. Balaji.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. So one request, I rarely get a chance to speak, so when I speak, I lose sight of time. So if I'm going beyond 5 or 6 minutes, please stop. The other is, of course, since this is getting streamed live, the views are not necessarily that of the company that I represent. It could be personal as well. Both my colleagues have covered a lot of ground, but let me take a step back. We're talking about HCM 2.0, we're talking about Industry 5.0. But what are some of the forces which are shaping this? I think let's take a step back. I think if I were to wear the sociology, political science, and the psychodynamic hat, there are 3-4 trends that I see which are really shaping this. One, traditionally, some of the institutions which the society had seen, whether it is in the form of families, the joint families, the communities, the religious communities, etc., they're breaking or they're completely broken. Right. The second thing which is also happening is that on the political side of the equation, we're seeing the rise of totalitarian regimes. And these are important things to understand because as an enterprise, as an organization, as a workplace, you're part of a larger ecosystem. So whatever is happening in the larger system, it actually impacts the workspace as well. The third thing which you would have noticed, the increasing power of corporations. One, of course, in size, but also in the way they're impacting your life. I mean, take the name of 5 or 6 companies that you know of. There's not a single facet of your life which is free from their influence. Similarly, because of all of this, the workplace is assuming a completely new character in terms of what it means to an employee. When social institutions are breaking, when political institutions are becoming completely totalitarian, the probably only recourse which employees have for them to satisfy some of those needs which are not getting satisfied elsewhere is the workplace. So the minute you start looking at the workplace from that context, you will probably have a completely new definition of workplace and what that means to HCM 2.0 and Industry 5.0. Right? My hypothesis, and I could be completely wrong, and this is my own personal hypothesis, the more political systems are stifling people's voices,
the more is the need for diversity and inclusiveness within organizations. Because these are basic human needs. There were institutions which were set up to satisfy those needs. They're no longer serving it. But that's where, I mean, and this is what I think personal experience when COVID happened, right? Especially in this country, the entire larger ecosystem, the government machinery failed for the first few weeks or months. And all those people in the functions, in the organizations who were in the center of the action, every employee turned towards the organization as the primary support system. And that's when organizations actually stepped in and filled in that vacuum and gap. So that is something which is going to happen, over a period of time. Alongside that, because of which your employment, forms are changing. We spoke about gig economy, we spoke about moonlighting, and these are all responses to a particular social force which we are encountering outside. Last but not the least, I mean, let me now move from, let me also throw a jargon. The world is moving away from VUCA to what is known as BANI, right? Which is nothing but, which is an acronym for brittle, is anxious, is non-linear and incomprehensible. Now, this is where the organizations or the workplace serve a very useful purpose. I mean, there's a psychodynamic perspective of organizations, that organizations are a defense against anxiety. They provide you structure. They provide you spatial structure. They provide you temporal structure. They provide you task structure. Right? Similarly, organizations also will take a center stage when it comes to fulfilling those social needs of ours, the meaningfulness needs of ours, and the safety needs of ours. So if you take all of these paradigms, the human capital 2.0 and the industry 5.0, these are the pivots around which it needs to really then get restructured. And as HR professionals or as business professionals, I think one of the biggest tasks which we will have to face as we go forward is this constant paradox between what the enterprise wants and what the individual wants. I think our role is essentially in terms of understanding that paradox and try to navigate and balance these two paradoxes, because enterprises will continue to maximize efficiencies and costs, whereas employees or human beings will continue to maximize the social return out of it, right? And that's where, I mean, way back in '67 or so, Douglas McGregor wrote about the human side of enterprise. I think we are moving towards a phase where we are talking about a humane side of enterprise. One which is fair. Fairness is going to be the most pivotal thing as we go forward when we build organizations, right? One where there is meaningfulness in terms of the work that you do, meaningfulness in the kind of connections that you're able to develop, and also something which is able to provide you psychological safety. Now, this is where I think the role of technology, is pivotal, because it cannot replace. I think that's the sentiment which was there in the panel, as well as my esteemed colleagues here. I think technology which takes care of these basic needs of humans in the workplace, and at the same time balances it with what the enterprise wants, is what will succeed. And this is where, let me now come to the Gen AI work that we are doing as a company. So we've recently launched our Gen AI product, and we call it Harmony AI. And our value proposition there is responsible AI, right? Responsible AI, which not only takes care of the entire ethical framework which it needs to take care of, but which does not actually stifle the human element of it, but it actually accentuates how humans can thrive by taking care of leveraging AI. So that's how we've been able to convert or translate some of these mega trends into the kind of projects that we're doing. Now, coming to the HR front, I mean, we're still in a use case scenario. We're launching, or rather, we are experimenting right now as we speak internally with 4 cases. One is an employee assist. Employee assist is nothing but It scans through all the organizational policies, organizational data, and answers any query that an employee might have. And the idea here is that you're democratizing information. It's no longer then the sole prerogative of a few people in the so-called earlier personnel department or the HR department, right? It is available out there. But what it also does is for my entire HR team, it actually frees them up with a lot of other, routine tasks so that they can focus on something which is far more value adding. And at least from my perspective, as much as it is about business, it is also about establishing those connections and building that social capital within the organization. And that's what I hold my HR team accountable to. The other thing that we are building on is Recruit Assist, which helps the entire talent acquisition team, right from writing a job description to screening to also look at the interview questions, interview preparation, everything. Because there are times when you are interviewing candidates with diverse backgrounds, right? So how does a manager who's not been exposed to a diverse background, or when he's probably interviewing somebody from a different racial or an ethnic background, what are some of the areas which the person should be sensitive while interviewing them? Now, while you will have classes and training, etc., but this is available on fingertips. The other thing that we're building is on onboarding. So, a person joins, again, all the necessary resources which are there. And last but not the least, and this is something we're experimenting, is how can, so a lot of these, labor law compliances, right, which are routine, which are just copy paste. How is it that this bot can learn it faster and just replicate it and just, save a lot of time? So that's essentially the macro to the micro.
Thanks for this wonderful insight from all three of you, coming from three different industries. So we spoke about McGregor, I spoke about the two-factor theory, which was given in 1965 by Herb. And there he spoke about that how the satisfiers and the motivators are two different elements. So salary can be, what, salary is a motivator? Salary motivates? Yes, salary motivates. So let's say on 31st of August you get your salary. Do you feel that extra punch in your blood on 1st of September? Or even after 5 seconds, that, oh, this has been credited, I should have. Yeah, so that is what this two-factor theory speaks about, that there are satisfiers that in the absence of which people will be, dissatisfied. So if salary is not there, people will be dissatisfied. But if salary is present, it does not mean that people are going to be motivated. And thereby he aligned two different, the entire theory was all about that. Before that, 1965, the larger IO psychology spoke about, that is, if someone is not dissatisfied, it means the person is motivated. Which he spoke about, that is no, that's not the case. Why people are satisfied in the organization and why people are motivated in the organization are two entirely different spectrums. And then he spoke about, that is, how the organizational policies sometimes work as a satisfier. That's what the original classification that was given by Prof. That is, organizational policies act as a satisfier, that is, in the absence of which people will be dissatisfied, but in the presence of, again, 1965 this is, so please bear that in your mind, that in the presence of suitable organizational policies, motivation does not occur. So it's largely a satisfier which is classified as. I was speaking to recently, especially during all this moonlighting and all this phenomena, someone from one of our biggest conglomerates in our country. I can name that, Tata's. And there the HR leader spoke about that how we are utilizing this opportunity through which organizational policies can be made to work as a motivator for people working inside the organization and even people who are outside the organization for applying to us. And then thereby, there was a statement by one of the industry leaders, one of the bellwether IT companies leader, saying that moonlighting is synonymous to cheating. Whereas there is another spectrum of thought which says that no, we are fine with this as long as, okay, the code of conduct is there, whichever code of conduct. So when we speak about organizational policies, again, there are two spectrum of the thoughts. And then I actually prepared for this moderator job, and because the panelists were so inquisitive, they were asking me questions that what are you going to interact about. So then I had to prepare, and then I had to tell them that is okay, these are the broader contour on which we are going to talk about. So I went through some of the reports, and then there is an article published in fortune.com which says that Amazon reportedly killed an AI recruitment system because it could not stop the tool from discriminating against women. There are multiple such reports that how AI-enabled or AI-augmented decision making is creating. Exactly the contrary to what it was believed to be, that it is going to have a bias-free decision. No, it is creating more biases. Because ultimately, AI is not Brahmaji's creation, it's our creation. So what you feed, it will base the decision basis that. And if you don't feed the right things, so it's a child. You'll have to make the child learn. So if you teach the child German, child will speak German. If you teach the child English, the child will speak English. So in the absence of, and then there are limitations which have been which have been highlighted in multiple such reports. That adequate data, improper data, not relevant data. So in the presence of or the absence of such issues, such factors, I'll invite Balaji's views first, and then, of course, both of you can speak about. That is how AI-enabled decision making can be used under the light of all that we discussed as an enabler of motivating factor of the organizational policy. Sure. That won't work. This will not work. No, I don't think it will. So you'll have to speak a bit louder.
Yeah, sure. So I think the way I look at it is, again, I think this was touched upon in the earlier panel also. Our, obsession, especially in the realm of, human relations and talent, I think there is one school of thought which is extremely obsessed with, data, hard data, hard data, hard data. But trust me, there is also something called as social constructionism, right? So in the realm of social relationship, a lot of things gets constructed when two people interact. And the reality lies somewhere in between. I think we would be doing the greatest injustice to talent management if we outsource the identification of talent to bots and to automated systems. I think if there is one core job of management, if it's one core job of any person in the organization, it is about identifying talent and grooming that talent, which cannot be outsourced. Now, having said that, what all of this can actually help you is in terms of looking at certain trends and patterns, which you can see whether it makes sense, whether you're able to decipher and take corrective action. Right? So, for example, one of the things that we found, and this, of course, anybody in the industry would vouch for, think that if people whose induction or onboarding experience has been below a particular score, their risk of attrition is actually on the highest side. So that's a pattern that you see. Now that is an important, valuable data. Now, having said that, then we dissected it further to say that, okay, there are 6 or 7 elements of, of the entire onboarding experience, which are the ones which are the two most ones which are contributing the maximum. And we realized the first and foremost, and as mundane as it can sound, was the basic infrastructure, which is available right on day one. And the second one, which is so very intuitive, is the manager support. If these two are taken care of well, the longevity of the person in the organization, and this could differ from organization to organization, from context to context. And we've actually seen that in the last 6 months, my infant mortality, sorry to use that word, has drastically come down. Now, data can only tell you this much. Data can also tell you only what you are looking for. I mean, if you want to just get into a fishing expedition with data, it will never tell you anything. Right? So you need to know what problem you're trying to solve, and then look for the data. You will get it. Don't take the data at its face value. Question it, massage it, do a deep dive, and that's where it's a dynamic process. You can't completely rely on a system, and you can't outsource it. At the same time, with your bounded rationality, you can't do it all alone. So that's where the entire, the intersection between human creativity, human agency, and what the machine can throw out can open up a world of opportunities.
So I think Balaji's covered a lot of ground there, but just to add on, real example of how we are using it at workplace and where we are finding it helpful is, we have a bot. So we have about 2,000 employees working with us across the country, and these are young people who have joined us, as you said, not necessarily for money, but for meaningful work, because they want to, really work in this industry. A lot of people, who are with us come from farming backgrounds, and they really want to make a difference to this problem statement. And we also understand the pace at which we are growing, and the pace at which we work. It is not possible for an HR person to be connected with each of these individuals, deeply connected with each of these individuals every day. So, and we have people who are recent joiners, who may have joined us in the last quarter. We have people who've been with us for the last 2 years, and we have people who have been with us for longer. And the needs for all of these people are really different. So one ways, and it's working really well, and that's why I'm taking that example. That technology is helping us is that we have a bot, just like he spoke about, recruitment assist and onboarding assist. So we have a bot who reaches out to these people based on the tenure, based on their journey, and asks really meaningful questions. And based on that data, every day at the start of our day, the leadership team and the HR team gets like a summary of a lot of conversations that have happened. And that data helps us understand the mind frame this employee is in, right? Who is enjoying their work? Who is it?
Can you suggest, tell us some of the questions which this bot asks, so that we have an exact idea that how do you map that?
So, the usual questions which HR would, have. So, for example, the first 15 days, are you feeling, connected with your team? Do you need any support in terms of any learning to do your job, or role? How has been your induction experience? Is there anything more that we can do? Now that helps us, as he said, to have deeper conversations and personalize the employee experience. So there is a standard onboarding or induction everyone would go through, and then based on the background of the person and the role that they are coming in, these conversations give us data on what else they might need, right? So there are some people who are very good at, using technology for learning. So our entire academy is available online, right? And they'd be like, no, I have everything, and really enjoyed the academy experience. And now I was a seeds expert. Now I feel I know about fertilizers and finance and everything, right? And then there would be people who'd be like, I've gone through the academy, but can you, help me interact with the crop insurance person? I want to know some more, right? And these conversations really help us in ensuring that, the feedback loop is very short and very small as compared to this coming through, maybe the manager and then the HR and then the senior manager. It comes directly to people who are, who can take the decision and make it happen. And it helps us personalize the experience. So, these, as compared to an HR person reaching out to that person and then recording it and then sending it out, it just makes the feedback loop like really short. So I think in that sense, a lot of the tools that we use in HR are helping us do a lot more with less time. So I feel, some of these tools are really helpful for us in our journey.
Anubhav, I mean, where do you see the policy intervention in the AI-enabled tools in your industry?
Okay.
And I'll request you to be slightly concise.
Got it. So I will tell you now, when you consider AI-enabled HR tools in a law firm or in a legal setup, I'll be very frank. Now, where there are a lot of volume, there you have to take help of AI because you are actually dealing with the masses. In a law firm setup, the volume is not much, but the quality and the people connect is extremely important. So we don't delve into any of the AI enabled HR tools because for us, for a lawyer to talk to a person itself will have multiple dimension of talk. Imagine if I replace that with chatbot, then that entire essence of HR is lost. So for my case or for most of the law firms, we have been very categoric that till the time it reaches that stage, and probably all law firms are 800,000 maximum. You will not go beyond that. For us, that connect to that people is extremely important. So when it comes to the policy intervention, what you say, for us, our connect with the people. For example, when a person joins, we ensure that during the 6 months of probation, there are multiple touch points with that person. Now I can't have a bot doing that with that person because there are multiple aspects which you need to understand. And probably as of now, I don't think any of the HR tech enabled tools are so advanced. We can converse based on what the response the other person gives. It can only ask very simple questions. But the thing is that when you're dealing with a fraternity which is completely into knowledge, and you have the pedigree of the brightest of the lawyers from national law universities working with you, or the rank holder CS, they will not come with general queries to you. It will be queries which will be very much pointed towards what kind of careers they have, what kind of conversations you can have. So that what can't replace. So with our case, it is very important that we have the touch points with HR, and that's where the definition. And then I think Balaji also asked that how HR has evolved in a law firm. I think that's where it has evolved because if I replace this all signs by a bot, then probably I think I will not do justice to the people. So in our kind of environment, it is, although the legal fraternity and AI-enabled tools in legal is absolutely fine because there is a need for that. But as long as HR is concerned, we still more believe on the human interaction and one-to-one interaction with the people to understand or multiple touch points to see where we are going so that we can have meaningful conversations and then derive analysis out of that because the data is not so huge that you can't manage without a bot. That's the thing.
All right, so yeah, so moving further, I mean, one thing that all of us would agree to, that AI is here to stay and it's a disruptive tool, maybe with some limitations that of course we'll have to factor in while looking at the utility and the implementation of that within the organization and the industry. But certainly AI has created certain level of discomfort in the minds of the people that what is going to happen to their job. You know, as a professor, I have some discomfort related to the AI. That when I give an assignment, I'm not sure that the students are using ChatGPT. The point is, no plagiarism tool is there, Authenticate or Turnitin, which can actually catch this similarity report of, there is no similarity report, by the way. I mean, only that the chat GPT will not throw you the right set of data. And that is one way we can capture that, okay, this is something not prepared by you, but you've taken that. So now when we give the assignments, we have started asking for the disclaimer that you have not used any AI-based enabled tool for submitting this assignment. So I can share that incident with you. So I mean, last academic season when I had, not last term only, when I had given an assignment, there was a report which spoke about, that the assignment spoke about, it's in 2023 and it spoke about, that is last year in 2020. When I got this student to me, that is that who has prepared this assignment? Sir, I have done this assignment. Then the entire proceedings happen and finally the verdict was declared. So if it is happening at our end, I believe that, and I see that this is something discomforting. This is discomforting in the minds of, especially the lower level of the people inside the organizations, where that human and computer interaction is higher, and then the person starts feeling that I'm going to be replaced. So because of that discomfort, the acceptance, especially at that the level of work where not much of the cognitive effort is required, that's going to be slightly problematic. So how do you see that this challenge can be overcome? Appreciating that this is a challenge, how this challenge can be overcome, and what we can do with these people who are going to be, possibly replaced because of AI. We have to wind up this session for the Q&A in another 4 or 5 minutes. So I would. Okay, so maybe 1 minute to each one of us. Right?
So I think the key to have this challenge is the communication. I think the communication from the leadership in terms of and giving them that comfort, this is here to help you and not to replace you. The way, how effective way you are able to do it, and the role of HR is transitioning them. Means suddenly I bring an AI tool or I bring a technology and suddenly leave it for people to figure out. I think then the maximum chaos happened because they feel that okay, are we getting replaced or not? But if you take them through that tool and exactly telling that, okay, this is how, and now you will be doing this work, you have to also, if you are taking something out of them, you have to tell them what is the alternate they have to do. I think that when the VUCA, I think the last A which got now added, that is VUCA, the last A is the anxiety. This is where it plays that the anxiety has now come into the people that, okay, if this is getting replaced, what is the next which I'm going to do? So that planning that, okay, these are the things now where I need to focus will give them a comfort. Okay, even if these mundane works are going out for me, there is some meaningful work for me to do, which I will be more keen on doing. So that my.
So two things. I think first and foremost, and this is something that we have done. We saw this entire thing coming up, and that's when we almost around 6 months back we launched what we call as the Sonata University. The fulcrum around which this anxiety can be can be resolved is by providing or amplifying the entire reskilling and the learning and development opportunities. Right? And that's the investment which we really need to put in. Right? Now, no longer is learning a luxury, no longer is learning an incentive or a benefit or time off. Right? That increasingly will become the core of your entire value proposition. Right? So that's number one. Number two, I think in this entire tension, what employees also want is that element of choice. Right? Are you giving me the choice? And that's why democratizing that learning rather than again keeping it within your locker is not going to work. So you tell them very clearly that these are the kind of projects which are coming over the next 5 or 6 months. These are the skills which are required. You have this career architecture and everything. This is the proficiency level required for you to succeed. And by the way, this is the entire learning ecosystem which is available to you, both from an e-learning, classroom, mentoring, etc., which will help us resolve that.
Yeah, I think completely agree with Balaji. I think the roles and skills of tomorrow will be very different from that of today. And instead of kind of looking at this with anxiety, a lot of people who are adopting this as, okay, technology is my friend, and how can I use this to upskill myself, and how can I use to do my job better, are doing a good job of adopting AI. I'll give you an example. This week, we we're working on a compensation structure, and the structure was changed for a few people. And so somebody who's making, the presentation is a comp expert, very good at Excel, but not so good at presentations, right? So it was like, I don't think this is worthy of, kind of going in as a training or as a presentation. And I was like, why don't you use an AI tool? And, he just uploaded his basic presentation into an AI tool, and voila, you get like a beautiful, amazing presentation. And, I think so. people are trying to use a lot of AI, and organizations are encouraging it. Use it to augment skills which you may not have, and there I feel this anxiety is lesser. Yeah.
So we are open for Q&A now.
So my question is to Mr. Balaji. So, sir, yesterday I happened to stumble upon some of the documents on online financial documents of financial statements rather online about Sonata. And while I was going through it during the first 3 pages itself, I heard a lot about platformation and how much the company owes to it. There were big words used to it that it was a technological backbone. It has redefined roles and responsibilities for recruitment, and it is the biggest strength during the COVID. And it has been a key differentiator when it comes to competition. So if you can throw some light on it, I can research on the technological part, but if you can just help me with redefining roles and responsibilities. Thank you.
I think what is important to understand is what is platformation, right? See, at the end of the day, when you, let's say, go to, let me take an example of, let's say, Amazon. When you go to Amazon site, that's a platform, right? So there's user experience and there's a lot of backend stuff which is trying to pull together to, create that platform. I think one of the earliest things that we realized maybe 3-4 years back is that the future of technology is not just, the technologies itself, but it could be the platforms. So that's where our entire journey towards platformation started. To say that we will build platforms, or we will enable platforms rather than doing just technology. So the way to look at it is technology is a means to an end, and the end being a platform. Now, once you look at it from that perspective, the way roles get redefined are completely different, because then what you're saying is that you're not just looking at one core element of that entire platform, but you're looking at creating the entire platform together. So keep the end in mind. And that's where the other thing that we did was when you create platforms, and by the way, there are a lot of proprietary platforms that we do, which we build, and we actually give it on licenses for a lot of industries. So then the nature of work also changes. Then no longer are people working in an assembly line kind of a work. You create pods, you get the entire team together. Each one is a specialist in a particular domain, and then they work together, create that module, and then launch it. Right? So that's how it has redefined not only the way people work and collaborate, but also the roles. And more importantly, our biggest learning had been that while you're creating a platform, you're not just wearing the hat of a technologist. You're wearing the hat of the end consumer. At the same time, you need to understand the core business as to how the business operates of the enterprise that you're working for. Right? And that the minute you expose them to these two, their entire perspective about technology and what they are responsible for changes. Does that answer your question?
Hi, Sanku. I'll take it up. Hi, thank you, sir, for doing this. Thank you, Mr. Sir, for hosting this. So, my question is to Mr. Das, because you talked about the development of AI into the legal systems. And since my father is a lawyer, so I know how much work goes into preparing a case. Recently, the CJI was at IIT Madras, and he talked about the line that has to be drawn on the AI developments, especially when you develop it on the legal aspect of the legal fronts. We can use it to prepare contracts. We can use it to prepare the legal logistical stuff that is. But where do we stop exactly? Because once the horse is out, it's difficult to stop it. Where do we draw that exact line?
Hello. So I think a very valid question. Now, as I said, in when these AI tools are helping you in sifting through multiple judgments to give you the most relevant judgment, or preparing, or based on your opinions or drafts, that is giving a software template. It's not that you present that directly to the client. Obviously, it's you have to do your own research to figure out that how much of that is relevant. And there where the stop is to be there, that it is not that otherwise there will be AI will be delivering directly to the clients. That's not the thing happening. It is helping you in giving your it is helping in narrowing your search to a more relevant things. Then you have all the rights to see that whether that is relevant, not relevant, whether you have to discard, whether you have to do more research. But at least the first level of your research is being done by the AI, which helps in saving your couple of hours of time in doing that. After that, when you see that okay, what are the product which has come, you can obviously take a call that how much of this to be relevant, because every client has a very different unique needs. And that's why I say AI will never be able to replace human, because the as I said, the AI is only the system which what we are feeding it is taking. The person who is feeding the AI may not be the one who is delivering to the client. So it is just giving you a perspective that okay, what is to be seen. But obviously then he has to use his expertise. Otherwise, people will stop learning and then they will only do take help of AI and start delivering. So there where the thing stops, that you have to be on the top of everything, you have to know everything, but more exactly out of the options which are being given to you, you should know that which one to choose, which will be beneficial for the client. I think that's where your human intelligence comes, which can be replaced by artificial intelligence.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you to the entire panel. So my question is to the entire panel here. So as has been insinuated here, due to the disruption that has been caused by Gen AI, we would require to go for human resource reallocation into newer sectors going to the future. But again, there is no guarantee that AI would not also venture into those newer sectors. So going into the not so distant future, can we say that there will be a requirement for regulations and policies that would demarcate sectors that would exclusively be populated either by AI or pure human resource?
That's quite a complex question. So would you want to give an example of where this is coming from?
Like Mr. Das just pointed out that for the legal process, there are some activities that are currently being done by AIs or bots and all. So in that case, the people who were originally engaged in those activities, so from the human resource perspective, they will need to be reallocated into newer sectors and trained to do that. But again, as Gen AI keeps on growing, again, it will also be capable of doing these newer activities as well. So
Yeah, so let's kind of go back like 10 to 15 years. I think whenever you are at a cusp of change, right? When we were entering the computer era and the internet era, there were these questions when computers came in that they will replace humans. And I remember, especially the banking system, a lot of banks and traditional banks pushing back on using technology, and they're going to replace us, and we don't think that should happen. I think at every cusp of change, and even with the example that you gave on the legal side, I think the quality of roles and the quality of skills that you need to do the next level role changes. I don't think they replace humans. So yes, if somebody had a job of going through thousands of books and taking out one relevant case from that, maybe that piece would be automated in terms of all these books are now online and you can just ask a question and you get the relevant case at hand, right? But as he said, but interpreting whether this is the right solution for the problem that you're solving might not change. So even here, I feel the roles are changing. It's just helping humans do more, more quality role, higher level role. So a lot of banking roles are now no longer about disbursing cash or depositing cash, and they're more relationship oriented. They're more into, okay, what life cycle are you in, and how can I offer you a financial solution for the life stage that you're in. So I think the quality of role, the quality of conversations are changing, but I don't think that it will completely replace human intervention.
I can just add to what Rishu said. Now, for example, what you said that okay, and as Rishu said rightly, that when Industry 1.0 happened with water and steam, then electricity came, then IT systems came. Every time that cusp, we had that issue. Then the IoT of things come. Now, people, humans and robots working together. That is 5.0. Now the thing is that is in this entire cusp. I will tell you how in the legal fraternity it is changing. For example, when I say that from a lawyer, the ability to do so much research, the time which is saving by not doing that research and giving. Earlier, it never used to happen that lawyers or law firms have to do a market outreach or a client outreach, because a client in distress will obviously come to you for anything. With the competition increasing, now his more time should be invested in okay finding out which are the type of clients, what are the kind of work we are getting, what are the if one client is having this problem, what are the other clients who can get a similar problem in the similar industry. Analyze that, going to that client, figure out that work and increase the revenue. This time was not happening because they were so much embedded into their work that they are only doing their case. They're going arguing in the court or giving the draft opinions and finishing it off. They are not understanding that the same client, if I'm having a issue with Ransom tires, then I can have the same issue with MRF and other tires also. Should I not I go to those clients and tell them this is an industrial update which has happened? This may hit your industry. It's better you be prepared. The legal framework is changing so much. Earlier there was no time for that because you have been embedded completely into doing your own work. Now, if that work is being done, then you are having new avenues of doing work where you can expand. And that's what I meant that as and when your existing work will keep on getting replaced, you will have more avenues of work to do more meaningful work. Now, interaction with the clients. How many times a lawyer or anyone goes and interact with the client? What is the actual issue? It's like listening to respond or listening to understand. It's always listening to respond. Okay, you get something, I will give you the best case. Let's move on. That human touch is decreasing. Now, if these things are being taken, then at least you can have a meaningful conversation with the client. What are the other areas? Probably I may a corporate lawyer, but I may be able to figure out that there are some areas in your arbitration or some areas in your IPR where you need help. Can I help you in that, or can I relate it to my firm or give it to a cross sell to my other practice area? That's exactly the thing which now you will be more doing in terms of, because ultimately if the firm has to increase the revenue, it has to go completely out of the way. And that's where it helps. So if that answers your question.
Sure. So, I know you have a hard stop. So there are three ways to look at it, right? One is, see, there are activities or tasks which get replaced. The entire role does not get replaced, right? So that's one important thing. The other thing we are forgetting is this entire thing is labor economics, right? What will happen is there will be a redistribution of the labor force. I think that's a very important thing that we need to remember. The third and the most important thing is the capitalistic economy. It's, by the way, Gen AI and all of this is not coming cheap, right? There is a lot of money which is you need to invest in getting all the answers that you need to do. And that's where pure capitalistic pressures will help you determine whether you still want to employ somebody as a human being there to get that work done, or you will employ this. So, see, I think what is extremely important for us to remember is don't take a completely utopian view or a completely dystopian view. The reality will lie somewhere in between, and the labor and the market forces will determine where exactly this heads. So there are not going to be major job losses. There is no doomsday predictions. So it's all good for us.
So one question here. Okay, maybe one more. This is the last question.
So basically, AI tools are trained on the past data, So I have a question for all the three panelists. So AI tools are trained on the past data, and as rightly mentioned by Professor Nishit, that each data comes with their own biases. So my question is how we are dealing with that biases while giving a solution to a particular problem.
What is the question?
How are we
However,
dealing with that
we
bias?
with the biases which AI is.
Good question. So, in the, a lot of people have been struggling to, crack this code by what they call as scientific fairness, right? And if you read up the literature, I think that's a myth. And I can tell you example closer home, what the kind of AI that we are developing, which is what we call as responsible AI. What we are trying to do, again, this is still work in progress, is define the rules itself in such a manner that it minimizes biases. Please understand, biases cannot be completely eliminated. Right? It will minimize biases, and then you will have to have human intervention checks and balances to ensure that there's a self-correcting mechanism. Having said that, I think one of the most important things is to also demarcate, saying that where is it that you will use it, where is it that you will not use it. Unless that boundary line is not clear, we will get into a lot of mess and horrible mistakes. Recruitment, is it supposed to be used? I have a vote, I will say no. Right? Because on the one hand, you're talking about diversity and inclusiveness, and on the other hand, you're completely stereotyping everything. What are we doing? Right? Recruitment, no. But there are, let's say, transactions which happen, right, on a daily basis. Collect that information and transactions, and then draw insights out of it. So that line has to be very clearly drawn.
So we have already, so maybe 30 seconds, yeah.
So
So let me work like a
just
continuous
just
answer.
to play the devil's advocate, so while I completely agree with Balaji, but I want you to think and reflect, and that's what all of us can end with. There are also a lot of biases in the human mind, which a lot of people are using technology to ensure that they get eliminated, right? So it's not always the other way around.
Concluding remark from your side related to this topic.
So I think if I see, we all give different perspectives on how we are using this, and my ultimate thing is that as Balaji rightly said, your task will get replaced, but not the roles. I think you should keep that in mind, and for all the generations, all of you who are upcoming, if you should think it is more of an enabler rather than which will be taking your thing, because the same thing happened every time. And the most important part for the leaders, how do we make you seamlessly transition in this is where our responsibility lies. If we leave you for to figuring out yourself, okay, X work will be done by Y bot, then you're in that anxiety phase. How am I able to help you and giving you more meaningful thing is what our prerogative or our responsibility lies in terms of the leadership of the organization. That what kind of meaningful work or meaningful roles are you able to craft, because some of these tasks are getting diverted. So I think with that I would like to close Nishi.
Thanks to Balaji, Anubhav, and Vishnu. This was quite insightful to me, and I'm sure that with the insight that I've acquired from here, I would be, let me be selfish in accepting that I have prepared one session of mine with the insight that I've got from all of you. And